They thought it was just a harmless joke. Two lonely parents awkwardly placed side by side at a bright Sunday afternoon school fundraiser. But by the end of that day, the laughter in the room would turn into stunned silence, and the woman they had underestimated would quietly change every heart in that hall. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Whisper Tales 3. Stories like this remind us that sometimes the people we judge too quickly carry the most extraordinary truths. The sunlight streamed through the tall windows of Maplewood Elementary's assembly hall, casting soft golden squares across the polished floor. Children's artwork covered the walls, finger-painted rainbows, crooked houses, smiling stick families holding hands. The annual spring community lunch was in full swing. Folding tables were dressed in pastel cloths, paper flowers taped to their edges. Parents laughed loudly, balancing paper plates of homemade biryani, pasta salads, and cupcakes decorated in uneven frosting. At the center of it all stood Farah Ansari, clutching her purse strap a little too tightly. She wore a simple cream shalwar kameez, neatly pressed but modest compared to the designer outfits around her. Her dark hair was pulled into a low bun, and faint shadows rested under her eyes from nights spent working late. Beside her stood her 7-year-old son, Samir, his small hand wrapped around her fingers as if anchoring her to the room. Across the hall, at a table near the lemonade stand, sat Rayan Qureshi, a single father known among parents as quiet and distant. He wore a navy button-down shirt with sleeves rolled to his forearms, his expression thoughtful as he helped his daughter Alina with her juice box. Since his wife had passed away 3 years earlier, he rarely attended social gatherings. When he did, he kept to himself. A group of well-dressed mothers whispered near the dessert table. They had noticed Farah standing alone and Ryan sitting alone. With smirks exchanged and a few raised eyebrows, they decided to help. One of them waved enthusiastically at Farah and gestured toward the empty chair beside Ryan, insisting she sit there. Another mother walked over to Ryan and jokingly said he should make room for the new single mom. They giggled as though they were matchmaking characters in a romantic comedy. Farah hesitated, cheeks warming with embarrassment. She felt the weight of curious stares as she crossed the hall. Samir followed quietly. Ryan looked up, confusion flickering across his face, before he politely stood and pulled out the chair. They both knew they were the subject of a joke, and the awareness made the air between them fragile and tense. For a while they sat in polite silence, the hum of chatter filling the space around them. Farah focused on cutting Samir's food into small pieces, pretending not to notice the sideways glances. Rayan adjusted his daughter's hair ribbon, pretending not to hear the soft laughter drifting from the dessert table. But something unexpected happened in that shared discomfort. Samir accidentally dropped his spoon, and it rolled under the table. Before Farah could bend down, Rayan retrieved it with a gentle smile. Alina shyly offered Samir one of her cupcakes. The children began to talk about their favorite cartoons, their voices blending innocently. Slowly, the tension eased. Farah and Rayan began exchanging small comments about school homework and the chaos of raising a child alone. Their words were careful at first, but there was a quiet understanding between them. Both knew the exhaustion of juggling responsibilities, the ache of missing someone, the silent fear of not being enough. What no one at that table knew was that Farah had once stood at the top of a glass tower overlooking the city skyline. 5 years ago, she had been the youngest financial director at a multinational firm. Her husband Hamza had run a successful tech startup. They had lived in a penthouse apartment, attended charity galas, and planned international vacations months in advance. But when Hamza died suddenly in a car accident, everything collapsed. Investors withdrew, lawsuits followed, and debts surfaced that she hadn't known existed. Within a year, the penthouse was gone. The luxury cars were sold. Friends stopped calling. Farah found herself working 2 jobs while studying late at night to rebuild her credentials, all while raising Samir alone. The whispers from across the hall grew louder as the mothers noticed Farah laughing softly at something Rayan said. They nudged each other, amused at how their joke seemed to be unfolding. But the principal of Maplewood Elementary soon stepped onto the small stage at the front of the hall and tapped the microphone for attention. The room quieted. The principal announced that the school would be receiving a generous anonymous donation to fund scholarships, renovate the playground, and create a new after-school learning center. Gasps rippled through the crowd. She explained that the donor had specifically requested to remain unnamed but would be present at the event. Curiosity buzzed like electricity. Parents craned their necks, scanning the room for someone who looked wealthy enough to make such a contribution. The mothers near the dessert table exchanged excited guesses, glancing toward a few well-known businessmen in attendance. Then the principal smiled warmly and walked down from the stage, heading straight toward Farah's table. Farah's posture stiffened as the principal approached and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. The principal thanked her publicly for her extraordinary generosity and resilience, explaining that Farah had quietly funded the donation after recently launching her own financial consulting firm that had grown faster than anyone anticipated. The principal spoke of Farah's commitment to giving back, especially to children from single-parent households who struggled with tuition. The hall fell into complete silence. Forks hovered mid-air. Conversations froze. The same mothers who had laughed moments earlier stared in disbelief, their smiles fading. Farah felt her heart pounding, not from pride but from vulnerability. She had not intended for anyone to know. She had wanted the focus to remain on the children. She glanced down at Samir, who beamed up at her with shining eyes. Rayan looked at her differently now, not with surprise at her success, but with admiration for her strength. The sunlight streaming through the windows seemed warmer, softer, as if the room itself had shifted. The joke that had placed her in that seat now felt insignificant compared to the truth of who she was, a woman who had lost everything and rebuilt her life quietly, brick by brick. After the applause subsided, the mothers who had orchestrated the seating arrangement approached awkwardly, their laughter replaced with stiff compliments. Farah responded with grace, her smile calm and unresentful. She had learned long ago that bitterness only deepened wounds. Forgiveness, on the other hand, felt like freedom. As the event continued, Farah and Rayan remained seated together, no longer as the subjects of a prank, but as two people who understood resilience. They talked about dreams for their children, about the fear of failing them, about the quiet pride in watching them grow stronger each day. The afternoon light slowly shifted toward evening, casting long shadows across the hall floor. Before the day ended, Farah stood to leave, gathering Samir's small backpack. Rayan walked them to the exit, offering to help carry a box of leftover cupcakes. Outside, the sky was bright blue, dotted with soft white clouds. The world felt open again. Just before this story closes, I have a small request. If you have ever judged someone too quickly or been judged yourself, comment "second chances matter" below. Farah drove home that afternoon not thinking about the applause or the stunned faces, but about the quiet conversation she had shared with another parent who understood her struggles. Sometimes the most powerful moments don't come from proving others wrong. They come from discovering that you are stronger than the circumstances meant to break you. And if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness and resilience can transform even the most awkward situations, please engage with this video. Like it, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and let us know your thoughts. Your support keeps stories like this alive, because sometimes the seat you are forced into by someone else's joke becomes the very place where your strength is finally seen.